Good morning, this is Norma Cowie once more with our Wednesday Norma Talks. This week I'm taking a little different look at things, and that is because a number of my clients have been phoning up because they're just feeling depressed and uncertain and unsure. And some of them who have worked with me for a while that usually are really established and things going really well in their lives. So I had to take a look at that just to see what was going on. And I realized that in the collective consciousness, which is where all the thoughts go, and there's thoughts like thoughts that are alike tend to come together. And with what's going on in the world, and in particular where the province I live in is in another little lockdown, the depressional element is quite strong. And so it's about how does one deal with that? How does one separate themselves, you might say, from the herd, from the masses? I know myself, I kind of went through a bit of a slump where I didn't really want to do anything, and I was quite happy reading my books, and income tax is coming down and things need to be looked at. And I was putting it off and putting it off. I'll do it tomorrow. And of course, tomorrow something else would come up. And so I went back to my pattern that I created in order to really understand where depression or anger basically comes from. So I'm going to just, first of all, go through that, what I decided. And it goes like this. It's a little story, really. An event occurs, and in that event, what you don't realize is that you really feel helpless about it, but you end up feeling either sad or mad. And I've got a little chart that describes this in workshops and things. But really, the real main thing is that you feel helpless. And what do you do when you feel helpless, really? Because if you were to go inside the helplessness, deep down, very often, there's still a pocket of unworthiness of having anything change or anything be aware, because that situation, which has created the helplessness, excuse me, is really what the issue is. And then you feel like, how can I change that? Now, in the spiritual world, we go deeper again to connect to source. But what I found with this, what I call the sad, mad, helpless formula, is that very often it truly is nothing you can do. And yes, you are helpless. So there's an acceptance level that needs to go on. There's an acceptance of how things are and because you can't change it. I mean, what am I going to do? The government has mandated that we have to wear masks. I have trouble breathing in a mask for very long. And so, and now we can't go inside restaurants where at least we could go in, take them off to eat. So that alone can have you feel really kind of frustrated and angry or just depressed, or like, what am I supposed to do? There's nothing one can do when that. You can protest, yes, you could protest, but at the same point, they're mandating that basically this has to occur. And unfortunately, a lot of people can't wear masks for various reasons, health reasons. Now, I have a little saying that I have utilized for many, many years, and it goes like this. It's not the event that is important. It's how you handle it. And I've had to work with that many times when I'd get upset over something, and I would just remember, it's not the event, it's how I handle it. And often in that, it's a matter of acceptance. Now, the interesting thing is, when you accept something 100%, then you can make a different decision about it. But what happens, we don't accept 100%. We may accept 98%, even 99%. That won't do it. I know, I've tried it all, believe me. Only when you accept 100% do you actually make a different decision than what you're already working on. Only then. And I know that we have, in some ways, fooled ourselves, you might say, that yes, we are 100%. Yes, we are at that point. But the reality is we're not. We're only at 98, maybe 97%. Because there's always that little bit that we just think we'll get the way we want it. It will be the way we want it to be. And so it's really, I think, important to understand that when you feel depressed or when you feel really angry, to go and look at what you really feel helpless about. And then accept. And if you cannot find a way in which, because I have, so I'm sorry, I went a step too fast. I have found that sometimes by connecting to that source that I believe in, that energy that I believe in, I can actually do something to change the situation. But when it's a big situation, like most people are dealing with right at the moment, that helplessness is there because there's nothing it feels like it anyway, that we can do anything about what's going on. That what we need to do is accept and decide how we want to handle that. Do we want to be sad? Do we want to be mad? Do we want to deal with it appropriately? So often these situations feel like you have no power. And I think that's another element that comes when we feel powerless. When we feel powerless, we feel really super helpless. And I think it's very often a point you need to look at. But you do always have power over you. So I'm going to ask some questions that I wrote down here. Number one, what is your belief about life? Do you, for instance, believe like I do that we're a soul that is transitioning in this body in this time, but you've got other lives, that there is a greater energy, but I'm going to come to that in a minute. So take a look about what is your belief about life, really? Do you feel you just here hanging out, whatever? Or do you feel that you have a mission? Do you feel that it's a journey? I mean, I know as I look back, I'm not the person I was 20 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. I'm a different person because of life's experiences and because of what's occurred and what's happened. So number two, and I think this one is an important one. Do you believe in a higher power? Do you believe that there is something unseeable out there that aids you, that loves you, that cares for you? I find that when you have a belief in a support system that is beyond you, then it gives a greater sense of purpose, a greater sense of support, definitely, and a feeling that you're not alone. Because so often when you are alone, and you're having to deal with things like what's going on now, and especially if you're elder and you live in an apartment, you can't have visitors, you can't go out, etc. If you didn't have that feeling of having that higher another power that is there for you, I don't know how you survive that. I really don't. I'm not sure, because I do believe in a higher power. It doesn't matter what name you call it. I've had Muslim friends, I've had Sikh friends, I have had Christian friends, and I'm a metaphysician myself. And so it's like, I've had a lot of friends with a lot of different beliefs, but the belief in something that supports the soul, that supports your journey, that supports the awareness of where you are, is really what I find is important. And then I've got, as a third question, do you feel connected to this higher power? Because you can believe, oh yeah, there's something out there, or you've been told that there is an energy or God or whoever or whatever, but do you feel connected to it? And that I have found over time the hardest thing for people, mainly because you have to allow the love. It's not, because it's not a mental thing, it's a heart thing. You have to allow the love in. You have to allow the love to come right in to be able to experience all of that which is there to experience. You have to allow it to come into all the cells of your body, to reinforce you, to know that no matter what it looks like, that essence is within you, and that you can feel happy, you can feel loved, you can feel all the things that are inside. And so that is often the journey many people take, as I took in my life. Number 4, what do you do to inspire you? Just think about that for a minute. What do you do to inspire you? There's a lot going on right now that doesn't inspire people, that have people feel sad or mad, have them definitely feel helpless, and especially about the future. Where is the future going? Most of us kind of lived in a world where we felt we could create our futures, where we had freedom, where we had an ability to move forward, to do the things that we wanted to do. So what do you do to inspire yourself? I think I'm personally very lucky. I've always had a mind that looks at things and connects and feels, you might want to say, complete in a way. But, and also, of course, there's chocolate and ice cream. I think I have that down here somewhere. Well, I think the next question covers that, so I jumped into that a little bit. But what does inspire you? Do you read something that's inspirational? I know a lot of people are sending me different meditation groups, different awareness groups, different knowing groups. I just have a great belief in humanity. I have a great belief in knowing humanity has overcome everything that has been thrown at them. And that inspires me. Now, did I have that when I was 20? No. But through life and reading and working with hundreds and hundreds of people different over my lifetime, I realized that we are very resilient and that we know what we want. So what inspires you? Maybe a book, maybe reading, maybe a certain speaker, maybe going out in nature. I know a lot of people who love to get out in nature, even if it's a park, and look at the trees. You know, remember the hugger tree? I have a friend. She's still alive, and she, wherever we went, we traveled a lot at one time on spiritual journeys, and she would go to the nearest tree and hug it, and the tree spoke to her. And I have had trees speak to me, but I'm not a big tree hugger particularly. But I have found that there's something about communicating with a tree. They're so wise. One of my meditations that I do that I've recorded and things, there is a part where you go into a place where there's trees and you hug a tree, or you go and talk to a tree. And what I found about trees was the wisdom. They're much older than us in the sense of age, our age, or where we are. They've lived hundreds of years, some of them. And they have an accumulation of wisdom, of permanence. And sometimes we just need to feel that, to know that there's energies that we can take inside and that we can utilize and bring forward and come into beingness with it. So it's something to think about. What does I do to inspire me? To inspire me to be aware of this energy that's there to support us through these difficult times. And as I said, my belief in humanity is very, very big, because I know that they have survived. And plus, let's face it, I remember a lot of past lives or other lives I've had where I've realized how we've joined together, how we've come together, how we have as a humanity kind of binding together with an ideal and being able to weather the storm, whether we completed our lives in that time or not, but the essence is there, that we will persevere, we will move through, and that, because things change, nothing remains the same. That's the thing we forget. And right in the middle, we're in the middle of where nothing is remaining the same. So we have that job of transitioning. But anyway, my next question was number 5. Do you feel loved? Do you love yourself fully? Sometimes I know I can be quite judgmental for myself. I can be very hard on myself, in fact. And I had to learn to back off a little bit and be more forgiving, and especially as I got into the forgiveness element of life. Do you allow that loving universal energy in? So again, to strengthen your essence of loving you, knowing that you're loved. And I'm fortunate because I get reminded every time I do a energy transformation for someone. I need and have to connect to that energy and work with that. And I get to really feel and understand the loving energy, which is, so for me, is really important. But what do you feel loved? Maybe you feel loved by someone in your life. Children are great because they just love unconditionally. And if you have children around you, but many of us, like me, don't. And so what do? For me, it's relying and knowing that the universal energy loves me, therefore it inspires me, and therefore we're able to move forward. And the last question I wrote down here, number 6, was, what do you think of your soul? You see, as I began to learn over the years, I began to realize that the soul is infinite. And that means the essence of you. As it goes from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, as it goes from this earthly plane to other planets, to other dimensions, it learns, it grows, it experiences things. And that sometimes we forget that we are in the process of allowing our souls to grow and mature and be all that can be. And the lovingness, not only of ourselves, but of others, the acceptance is very strong on that. When you accept yourself, you accept others. It's very easy to slip into judgment, especially if you're a little depressed. I'm beginning to realize that when I start judging, I'm usually feeling a little beaten down one way or the other. And the key is that the essence of you is consistent. You just have to reach inside and be aware of your magnificence. Many years ago, in a meditation group I was leading, I had one lady stand up and say, "I am magnificent," until she got it. Sounds a little brutal, actually, when I think back. I was young, much younger, but it made a difference for her to recognize that she was magnificent. And very often, some of the affirmations that we can say regarding ourselves often is not about being magnificent, is not about being strong, is not about being a beautiful essence of who we are. Life is so fascinating. And I just want to remind you of the statement that I said, it's not the event that's important, it's how you handle it. And I know I've had to use that saying many times in my life when I've been feeling powerless. We are not powerless. We have a great mind. We have a collective mind. And as I said, the subconscious mind, the superconscious, the collective consciousness. So we have a subconscious and a superconscious, but the collective consciousness, we need thoughts to go into that collective consciousness that talks about strength, that talks about perseverance, that talks about courage. Our thoughts need to have that. We have courage, lots of it. We have perseverance. We have endurance. And we can overcome anything from ourselves and situations. And the key is to know that we have experienced many other times. If you're here now, you've experienced many other times, believe me. And that you have the knowingness of being able to move forward. So remember, the tendency is to feel helpless and therefore powerless, but you are not, because you have a mind. And that mind can think with very strong clarity and connect with a force of love that is here in this universe. And the thoughts can be of perseverance, of courage, and awareness that no matter what, humanity will survive. Humanity will persevere, no matter what the circumstances look like, because the soul lives on. There's so much fear about death at this moment in this world. And the key is It's a natural process at some point, at some time, because the soul moves on. And when it understands love, the universal love that is existence within this planet, brings peace. And is that not all we want? To feel peaceful within, to be at one with ourselves and to our friends and the people that we care about and love. And I think that's going to be my talk for today. When I started off, I wasn't sure which direction I was running. I knew I had some Christians down here, but I really want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for persevering through these minutes and time. I also want to thank you for those who have subscribed and left comments and likes, etc. And remember, you can always go to my website, normacowie.com, and sign up for my newsletter. Blessings to each one of you, and thank you. Bye now.